Hi there. Before we look into this question, I would recommend that you give it a try on your own. Okay, I'm assuming that you have tried to solve this question. Let's look at what this question has. Which of the following, if true, would most seriously weaken the conclusion of the argument above? Okay, so there's an argument, there's a conclusion. We need to weaken that. Okay, let's look at the argument. A law requiring companies to offer employees unpaid time off to care for their children. Okay, that's a law that wants companies to give employees time off. Okay, this law will harm the economic competitiveness of our nation's businesses. Okay, so if there is time off given, then economic competitiveness will come down. That's what the author is saying. Why is he saying that? Ideally, I would want some data, some premise for us to draw this conclusion. But here the author so far has not given anything. Maybe it's going to follow. Let's read. Companies must be free to set their own employment policies without mandated parental leave regulations. Okay, so companies should decide for themselves. Government should not decide. Okay, that piece actually is not entirely related to this. This is some different piece of information. So basically there is no premise given to support this conclusion. Okay, so technically it's not a conclusion, but yes, you can also argue that implicitly it's a conclusion in the sense that the premise on which the conclusion is built, that's implicit. How? That's because, okay, if employees are getting time off, productivity will be low and economic competitiveness will go down. Okay, that's sort of an implicit argument. That seems to be what author is thinking. But nonetheless, if there is anything like a conclusion here, that is this. Okay, and we want to go against it. We want to weaken it. Basically, we want to say that even if this law comes in, even if you give time off to employees, economic competitiveness may not come down. That's what we want to say. Okay, let's move on to the answer choices. A parental leave law will serve to strengthen the family as a social institution in the country. Okay, so it's good for families, good for society, things like that. Okay, but what about economic competitiveness? This answer choice doesn't say that, so this has to be out. Okay, many businesses in this country already offer employees some form of parental leave. Okay, so many companies are already having this regulation or something similar. Okay, that's great, but what about economic competitiveness? Again, A and B, both of them don't have that. It should be very clear in our mind what we are looking for. We are looking for a statement that says that even if the law comes in, economic competitiveness may not go down. Okay, fine. Let's look at C. Some of the countries with the most economically competitive businesses. Okay, I like this term because this is exactly the term that's given in the conclusion. Economically competitive businesses have strong parental leave regulations. Okay, so basically it is saying that in some other countries, now this is something that needs to be looked at very carefully. Many times we see that whenever there is information given about a different set, that is something else or some other town, some other country, that may not be relevant, but we'll evaluate whether this is relevant. So basically, in simple terms, what this is saying is that there are countries in which businesses have this law, but they are still competitive. Okay, so that means it is saying that even if you have this law, economic competitiveness may not go down because look at the other countries. Okay, so although this information is not directly from this country, it indicates that this correlation may not be there. So it's a good answer choice. We have to be very careful about these kind of situations where they're talking about information from some other set. But in this case, it's not really a bad idea. This is still a good sort of weakening statement. Let's keep this. Let's see if we have something better. Only companies with 100 or more employees would be subject to the proposed law. Okay, fine, but what about their competitiveness? Economic competitiveness will go down, up, we don't know. So this is out. In most polls, a majority of citizens say they favor the passage of the law. Okay, employees want that law, but what about economic competitiveness? Again, there is no mention of that, so this has to be ruled out. So you will see that in all those 4 answer choices that we have ruled out, there is no mention of economic competitiveness, which basically means that C is the only answer choice that makes any sense and is the correct answer choice.